You're listening to the DoD BeThere Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Dooley. Today we're talking about digital devices and what might happen if we choose not to use them for a few days, a sort of digital detox, you might call it. It sounds scary, I know, but stay with us to hear more. The DoD BeThere Podcast is produced by the DoD BeThere Peer Support Call and Outreach Center. Contacting the center is a quick and convenient way to find resources and receive confidential peer support for any type of challenge military life is throwing your way. BeThere Peer Support is available 24/7, 365 through chat, email, call, or text at 844-357-PEER. That's 844-357-7337. You can also visit us at betherepeersupport.org. In another episode, we interviewed Dr. Blake Chafee, a former Navy psychologist, about addictions and addictive behavior. And he brought up how people these days talk about being addicted to their phones, their smartphones, tablets, what have you. And while he explained that people aren't truly addicted to their phones, they can start to display addictive behaviors, like the anxiety and discomfort that people might have when they don't check their social media regularly. So that got us thinking, what about a digital fast? Just like we might give up sweets or commit to more exercise or more sleep, or trying to implement any other healthy behavior, what would it be like to give up your personal electronics for 5 days? So we found a volunteer to do just that. Shay was an intelligence analyst for 20 years with the Air Force. Now newly retired from active duty, she agreed to the experiment and to come back and tell us how it went. And maybe give us some tips for what we ourselves can do if we feel like our phones and computers are running our lives. Wow, Shay, so you agreed to a 5-day digital detox. That's incredible, given that many of us can't even go 5 minutes, let alone 5 hours, without checking our devices. Can you tell us what all that entailed?
Yeah. So what it was I tried to limit my electronics as much as possible. So I went with no cell phone, no television, and no computer, with the exception of schoolwork. I'm currently working on my master's degree. So everything else was no electronics. I do still have a landline, so that was helpful. But that's what it encompassed.
Okay, so now I know you have a husband and 2 daughters, I believe.
Yeah.
How was your first day then? Did you just tell your family and friends, just don't text me for 5 days, or how did that work?
So I'm a planner, just by nature. So I tried to set myself up for success beforehand. So what I did was I sent out a text message to the people that that communicate with me the most. So my extended family, and said, hey, I'm on a digital detox for this many days. Don't call me or text me or send me Marco Polos or anything for 5 days. And then I sent them my landline number and said, if you need to reach me, here's how to contact me. With my husband and my kids, I just told them what I was going to do. The toddler, she doesn't really understand. As long as I put on her YouTube videos, she doesn't care. But the husband and the oldest, I said, this is what I'm doing. And they were like, Roger, good luck with that, is what they said.
Well, hopefully they were supportive in the efforts, but it sounds like they didn't maybe think that you were going to either enjoy it or be successful, which leads into all the questions then about how it went. So one of our team members was talking about, when we were discussing this experiment, said, be sure to ask her, what did she do with her time? How did she fill the time that would have normally been spent on a smartphone?
Yeah. So it was interesting because it was harder than I thought it was going to be, but then ended up being easier than I thought it was going to be, if that makes any sense at all. So without the extra distractions, I don't really spend as much time as most people do I don't have social media, so I don't spend a drastic amount of time on it, but it was more time than I thought I did. So without the distractions of, apps like Sudoku or random news articles or things like that, I exercised more frequently. I meditated a lot more. I took naps. That was great.
That's great.
Naps were amazing. And what I found was that I just had more time for myself, to be alone with myself, to spend with myself, and that was pretty enlightening.
Well, that's great. So, did anything happen that you didn't anticipate?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, I tried to set myself up for success. So most of the things I anticipated, like not being able to set my alarm using the app on my phone.
Mm.
So I had to use the keypad for that. Having to pre-coordinate things. So because people couldn't contact me when I was out and about, I would have to say, hey, I'm on my way over to your place, instead of texting them while I'm on the way. I'm almost
Mhm.
there. One thing that happened that I didn't anticipate was TV. So I don't usually turn on the TV because I'm mom and I'm busy. And so I have other things to do.
Mhm.
But if the TV is on, I'm interested in what's happening. That's what that's what I found out. So it was difficult because everybody else around me is watching the TV. There were some significant events that happened last week, like the NBA finals were on,
Mhm.
the NCAA field track and field championships were on, and I'm a big enthusiast for track and field. So that was like, oh no, what's happening? And I couldn't find out until the next day when I went to Circle K and walked in and bought a newspaper, which was I didn't even know they still sold newspapers in the. I was like, where do I buy these?
Well, I thought about that about maps. Like, I realize how much I rely on my map to tell me, or store hours and things like that. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I thought, how is she going to get around? So,
The other huge thing that happened was I do all of my banking online
mm,
now. And there was a point where I was going to spend more than just a few dollars, and I needed to check my account to like make sure things were, good. I didn't have any unexpected surprises, and I couldn't check my account online.
mhm.
Luckily, my credit union has a phone app where I can call and check my account. I did that, but I hadn't used it in so long that my phone account was locked
Oh
out.
my goodness.
I waited to talk to a representative for about 15
Oh no.
minutes, which of course, I'm looking at my watch going, this is atrocious. I have things to do. And of course, I have to use my landline to do so. So I'm stuck at home until this can
Oh
happen.
wow.
So the lady's asking me all these verification questions. And she's like, how much do you have in your account? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't been online in 5 days.
Oh.
She said, I don't I don't understand. You haven't been online in 5 days. So then I explained to the representative about the digital
Oh,
detox.
nice.
And she said, wow, that's really amazing. A digital cleansing. That sounds wonderful. So then we spent minutes talking about the detox and how it was going for me. It was really a detour from the.
Yeah, but that's kind of great. It really does kind of speak to how all of us realize kind of what an adventure and what that all entails when you commit to doing something like this.
Yeah, it was really really telling. And she, so I encouraged her to do it. I said, try it for half a day,
Mhm.
and she said, I think I'm going to do that. And then I think I'm going to try to get my coworkers to do it too.
So how's the reentry been? Are you doing anything differently now than maybe before the experiment? Because it's been a few days now, correct? That you're back online?
Yes. Back in from 1980, people kept saying, how was your trip? And I was like, I didn't go anywhere unless you mean back to 1980 where there are no electronics. So yes, I'm back from my trip. So the reentry has been interesting. I find that I feel less obligated to respond to my phone immediately. I
Hmm.
don't look at it as often. I'm not just tooling around on apps or the kind of nonsensical things that I was doing before to fill time. I don't feel so obligated to do those things because I know that there are other things I could do. I could go for a run or take a nap or meditate, or, clean something, do some laundry, something more effective than playing 30 or 40 minutes of Sudoku.
So now that it's over and looking back, did you discover anything about yourself or anything surprising about this experience?
Yes. So without the distractions, the few distractions that I mostly use my phone and my electronics as tools. So news, security, Pandora, for running, meditation app, those kind of things. But what I did realize is when I didn't have that, uh, I was alone with myself and my thoughts. And it gave me time, like almost forced time for self reflection, because I didn't have anything else to fill that space with. And there were things that I started thinking about that I didn't necessarily want to think about. It's like, oh, wait, what's happening here? I I didn't know I was feeling this way, but it's because I had kept myself so preoccupied with other things that I didn't give myself time to reflect on them. So it gave me time alone with myself, good, bad, or ugly. It happened, and I was able to process some things that I, had been holding on to for weeks. Silly things, but things that just kind of helped move on some stress that I didn't know I was holding on to. So it was nice to realize that I I need more time alone with myself. I give so much to, my husband, my children, my job, that I don't save enough time for myself. And taking away the distractions of electronics bought me time.
That's very interesting. And I bet that might have been a surprise for yourself as well. I can see how this experience could open up the door to something like that. So I'm glad that you had that experience for yourself. So we had two more questions for you. One was, do you have any advice for our listeners who might want to follow in your footsteps, either just abstaining for a few days or reducing their use overall? It sounds like you've already had some of that conversation with your bank lady, but what any tips you would want to share with us?
Yeah, so I would suggest, so going for 5 days would have been difficult for me if one, I hadn't scheduled it. I was on vacation time, so that gave me the ability to restrict myself as much as possible. If I had been working, it might have been a lot different. So I would say definitely schedule it, put it on a calendar, and then try to maybe reduce, if the person has a huge online footprint, or they use social media or electronics a lot, instead of going cold turkey, if they don't think they're going to be successful that way, even just going with no phone for half a day or a whole day, or a Sunday, one of the days that you don't usually communicate with people. Maybe their Saturday or their Tuesday is like their light day. Just turn the phone completely off and put it away in a drawer, and then come back to it at the end of the day. Nothing's going to burn down in those 12 hours, but the benefit is really wonderful. So schedule it, um, and then try and just set themselves up for success in knowing what they're gonna be capable of, and then build up to it.
So Shay, thank you. Those are some great suggestions. I guess it's kind of like any other effort to change a habit, of where you're
Mhm.
dedicating your time and energy. So that's great. I hope you feel like it was successful and beneficial to you overall. And then our last $1 million question, Shay, is: would you do this again?
I'm already planning to do it again. Maybe not for 5 whole days, but I found it so beneficial, that I'm just gonna schedule 1 or 2 days out of the month and just turn my phone off. I might not go all electronics, but even going without the phone, of not feeling tethered to the world. I don't want to always be accessible to everybody. So, I'm going to schedule myself 1 or 2 days where I'm just going to turn my phone off and put it in a drawer, and whatever happens on that phone during that time period, I'll figure it out afterwards.
Wow. Thank you, Shay. Thank you so much for being with us here today and for sharing all of these experiences. And best of luck in your future digital detoxes. It'll be interesting to check back in and see how it's been going.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's really been refreshing. So thanks for that opportunity.
Thanks for listening to the DoD BeThere Podcast. Contact the BeThere Peer Support Line at 844-357-PEER. That's 844-357-7337. Follow us on Facebook at BeThere Peer Support and on Twitter at DoD Peer Support. You can also visit us on our website at BeTherePeerSupport.org.